Hail Internet, it's Matt here for the Dork Lords. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We talk about all manner of dorkly things here, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes. We probably have a playlist about it. Feel free to check us out. Today is another in our Dork Lord of the Rings series. And today we're celebrating Hobbit Day once again in collaboration with several other awesome Tolkien-themed YouTube channels. We've created a playlist of our Hobbit Day videos, and I urge you to go check out some of these other entries. I'll put a link to the playlist in the description. For my Hobbit-themed offering, I thought I'd talk about arguably Tolkien's most famous chapter, Riddles in the Dark, from The Hobbit. And while I had some issues with Jackson's Hobbit trilogy, his portrayal of Riddles in the Dark, Martin Freeman, Andy Serkis, was quite good. I'm a fan. Let's start with the version of the chapter that everyone knows. Bilbo becomes lost in Gollum's cave. The two begin a game of riddles. If Gollum wins, he gets to eat Bilbo. If Bilbo wins, Gollum will show Bilbo the way out. Bilbo eventually asks Gollum, "What have I got in my pocket?" Unable to guess, Gollum goes to find his ring to help him kill Bilbo, finds the ring missing, realizes Bilbo's got it, then heads for the exit to cut Bilbo off. An invisible Bilbo follows him until the moment of truth. Bilbo has to get past Gollum to escape. Bilbo almost stopped breathing and went stiff himself. He was desperate. He must get away, out of this horrible darkness while he had any strength left. He must fight. He must stab the foul thing, put its eyes out, kill it. It meant to kill him. No, not a fair fight. He was invisible now. Gollum had no sword. Gollum had not actually threatened to kill him, or tried to yet. And he was miserable, alone, lost. A sudden understanding, a pity mixed with horror welled up in Bilbo's heart. A glimpse of endless unmarked days, without light or hope of betterment. Hard stone, cold fish, sneaking and whispering. All these thoughts passed in a flash of a second. He trembled. And then, quite suddenly, in another flash, as if lifted by a new strength and resolve, he leaped. No great leap for a man, but a leap in the dark. Straight over Gollum's head he jumped, 7 feet forward and 3 in the air. Indeed, had he known it, he only just missed cracking his skull on the low arch of the passage. Gollum threw himself backwards and grabbed as the hobbit flew over him, but too late. His hands snapped on thin air, and Bilbo, falling fair on his sturdy feet, sped off down the new tunnel. He did not turn to see what Gollum was doing. There was a hissing and cursing almost at his heels at first. Then it stopped. All at once there came a blood-curdling shriek, filled with hatred and despair. Gollum was defeated. He dared go no further. He had lost his prey, and lost, too, the only thing he had ever cared for, his precious. The cry brought Bilbo's heart to his mouth, but still he held on. Now, faint as an echo, but menacing, the voice came behind. "Thief! Thief! Thief! Baggins! We hates it! We hates it! We hates it forever!" So that is the Riddles in the Dark most of us have come to know. And we get a retelling of that version in the prologue to the Fellowship of the Ring. But notably, right after the reprint of the line, "We hates it forever," we're told that Bilbo actually gave a different version of the story. Now, it is a curious fact that this is not the story as Bilbo first told it to his companions. To them, his account was that Gollum had promised to give him a present if he won the game. But when Gollum went to fetch it from his island, he found the treasure was gone, a magic ring, which had been given to him long ago on his birthday. Bilbo guessed that this was the very ring that he had found, and as he had won the game, it was already his by right. But being in a tight place, he said nothing about it, and made Gollum show him the way out as a reward, instead of a present. This account Bilbo set down in his memoirs, and he seems never to have altered it himself, not even after the Council of Elrond. Evidently, it still appeared in the original Red Book, as it did in several of the copies and abstracts. But many copies contain the true account as an alternative, derived no doubt from notes by Frodo or Samwise, both of whom learned the truth, though they seem to have been unwilling to delete anything actually written by the old Hobbit himself. Gandalf, however, disbelieved Bilbo's first story as soon as he heard it, and he continued to be very curious about the ring. Eventually, he got the true tale out of Bilbo after much questioning, which for a while strained their friendship. But the wizard seemed to think the truth important. Though he did not say so to Bilbo, he also thought it important and disturbing to find that the good Hobbit had not told the truth from the first, quite contrary to his habit. The idea of a present was not mere Hobbit-like invention, all the same. It was suggested to Bilbo, as he confessed, by Gollum's talk that he overheard, for Gollum did in fact call the ring his birthday present many times. That also Gandalf thought strange and suspicious, but he did not discover the truth in this point for many more years, as will be seen in this book. So what we see here is a subtle but meaningful change in the reality of what occurred versus Bilbo's retelling. Instead of sneaking past Gollum, who was trying to find and kill Bilbo, Bilbo's story was that Gollum offered to give him the ring as a present for winning the riddle game. But since Gollum couldn't find the ring, because Bilbo had it, he graciously offered to show Bilbo the way out instead. Why did Tolkien choose to include this passage? Because the first edition of The Hobbit, 1937, featured that version of events. At that time, Lord of the Rings was still years away from being published. At some point in the process, Tolkien decided to link the One Ring to Bilbo's ring. Until that moment, Bilbo's ring was just a creative way to get Bilbo past the goblins. But once Tolkien decided that this was the One Ring, he felt the need to revise Riddles in the Dark. Mainly, Tolkien realized that Gollum would never willingly part with the One Ring. He would not, in good faith, offer it up as a prize to a stranger. So Gollum had to become more malevolent, crazed by his long years of possession of the ring. And the method of Bilbo's escape had to be revised. So here are some excerpts from the original, first edition, Riddles in the Dark. Note how infinitely more agreeable Gollum is in this version. I'm going to pick it up after the riddle game has finished. "What about the present?" asked Bilbo. Not that he cared very much. Still, he felt that he had won it, pretty fairly, and in very difficult circumstances, too. "Must we give it the ring, Precious?" "Yes, we must. We must fetch it, Precious, and give it the present we promised." So Gollum paddled back to his boat, and Bilbo thought he had heard the last of him. But he had not. The Hobbit was just thinking of going back up the passage, having had quite enough of Gollum and the dark water's edge, when he heard him wailing and squeaking away in the gloom. "Where is it? Where is it? Lost! Lost, my precious, lost, lost! Bless us and splash us! We haven't the present we promised, and we haven't even got it for ourselves!" In the end, Bilbo gathered that Gollum had had a ring, a wonderful, beautiful ring, a ring that he had been given for a birthday present ages and ages before in the old days, when such rings were less uncommon. I don't know how many times Gollum begged Bilbo's pardon. He kept on saying, "We are sorry. We didn't mean to cheat. We meant to give it our only present if it won the competition." He even offered to catch Bilbo some nice juicy fish to eat as a consolation. Bilbo shuddered at the thought of it. "No, thank you," he said, as politely as he could. He was thinking hard, and the idea came to him that Gollum must have dropped that ring sometime, and that he must have found it, and that he had that very ring in his pocket. But he had the wits not to tell Gollum. "Finding's keeping," he said to himself, and being in a very tight place, I dare say he was right. Anyway, the ring belonged to him now. "Never mind," he said. "The ring would have been mine now if you had found it, so you would have lost it anyway. And I will let you off on one condition." "Yes, what is it? What does it wish us to do, my precious?" "Help me get out of these places," said Bilbo. Now, Gollum had to agree to this if he was not to cheat. As they went along up the tunnel together, Gollum flip-flapping at his side, Bilbo going very softly, he thought he would try the ring. He slipped it on his finger. "Where is it? Where is it gone to?" said Gollum at once, peering about with his long eyes. "Here I am, following behind," said Bilbo, slipping off the ring again, and feeling very pleased to have it, and to find that it really did what Gollum said. "Here's the passage," Gollum whispered. "I must squeak in and sneak down. We dursn't go with it, my precious. No, we dursn't, Gollum." So Bilbo slipped under the arch and said goodbye to the nasty, miserable creature. And very glad he was. He did not feel comfortable until he felt quite sure it was gone, and he kept his head out in the main tunnel listening until the flip-flap of Gollum going back to his boat died away in the darkness. Then he went down the new passage. I find that fascinating. Similar outcome, same characters, but a very different relationship. Instead of, "We hates it forever," Bilbo says goodbye, and Gollum lets him go about his way. What I love about the evolution of this chapter is that it shows Tolkien's obsessive dedication to his story. Some authors probably would have gone as far as rewriting Riddles in the Dark to fit their next book. But that's probably where most authors' commitment would end. Job done. It makes sense now. For Tolkien, it really bothered him that there was a published version of this story out there that wouldn't comply with the Lord of the Rings narrative. So he made an in-universe justification for the original story. Bilbo was an unreliable narrator, and the reason was because he was being affected by the ring. Like Sméagol, he needed the ring to come to him as a present. So it's a brilliant retcon that shows you the adaptability of J.R.R. Tolkien. So that's all I've got for today. Happy Hobbit Day, everyone. And to Frodo, Bilbo, and my good friend Theron, happy birthday! Thanks, everyone. Check out the Hobbit Day playlist, and I'll see you next time. Bye!